All right, y'all ain't no half stepping with Marcus J is live. We are back in the building for the first time in quite a few weeks, and we got a lot to talk to you about. We got a lot to get to. We got special guests in the room. We got a lot to get into. Y'all already know what it is. No tease. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J is live right now.
It's about that time. It's about that time to get.
Button your lip, open your ears, strap on your thinking cap. Socially conscious talk that's entertaining with a dash of humor and the top sports stories of the week. It's time for Ain't No Half Steppin' with Marcus J.
Sellers has Jordan. Jordan with 2 seconds to go. Puts it up and scores at the buzzer. Michael Jordan has won it for Chicago. Manning lobs it. Burris alone. Touchdown, New York.
Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. He hits one deep to right center. That ball is out of here. The Yankees win the pennant.
If they lying,
they must be half stepping.
ain't no half stepping with Marcus J is live, back in the building. Be down with us tonight, 804-402-2893. Be down with the flagship show heard live from the Den, Legacy Internet Radio. Thanking everybody for rocking with us tonight. If you want to be a part of the show, call us at 804-402-2893. That's how you are a part of tonight's discussion. 804-402-2893. Thanking everybody checking in with us. I see the lights are on www.legacyinternetradio.com. We see the folks already checking in with us on TuneIn application, Streamer, and we're thanking those folks that are checking out the replays right now on iTunes as well as on YouTube. Y'all rock with us. We roll with y'all. It's been a couple of weeks since we've been in the building, and I'm definitely excited to bring you the flagship show of Legacy Internet Radio once again. 804-402-2893. A lot to get into. Been paying attention to the news. You already know what we're talking about tonight. We'll get to it here momentarily. Of course, we have to get through some of the particulars and get all of the usual suspects properly introduced. And so first brother I want to introduce to the show is a brother of mine, been on the show in the past. Been a while since we've had him, but we're fortunate enough to have my brother Broderick is up in this joint. What's up, man?
Hey, man, how you doing?
Doing well, man. You doing good?
I'm doing well.
It's good to see you, man. It's been a long time since I've seen you in your home in the confines of Legacy Internet Radio.
Yeah, man, it's good to be seen by you.
Yeah, man. Well, as Big Bro Joe would say, it's better to be seen than viewed.
Yep. Absolutely.
And whatnot. So you ready? You ready to go and you ready to go have a fabulous show? You ready to rock?
I am.
All right. Of course, you heard her helping me out on the intro. She is my co-host and my big sis. You see her, well, I see her sitting across the table, my sis S.Y. Butler. What's up, baby?
What's up, baby?
What's going on, man?
Nothing. I miss you.
Miss you too, man. I feel like it's been like a long time since I seen you and stuff.
Forever.
Like,
we should have like an exchange of flowers and candy.
No, I'm not doing that.
Where is?
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. Yeah, talk to him. Maybe he might get you some flowers. I ain't doing all that. You tripping, man. Like, for real?
Anyway.
Already you want me to be nice?
Yes.
Why? Cause what?
Because I'm your big sis.
So?
And you love me.
How many people you know really nice to their family, though, for real?
One.
Who's that?
Me.
Okay, be nice to yourself. Yeah.
Can you put those claws back?
Nah.
Hey, y'all.
Yeah, so of course I got to pick on you. Of course, I got to introduce my brother, my partner, my homeboy. I always like to call him the utility player, Mr. 3375. What's up?
What's going on, brother? How y'all doing today?
I'm doing well, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. It's hot as fire outside, but I'm here.
Yeah, it's definitely some some issues. Like we got a different sun.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the same sun they got everywhere else. I think the Richmond sun is different. I think they need to put the AC on outside.
You know how Virginia is. Their weather is different from anybody else on the planet.
Yeah, it's on some craziness and whatnot. So, but you good? You all right?
Doing good, brother.
You ready for a fabulous show?
Oh yeah, I'm ready. It's been 2 weeks.
Yeah. Well, it's actually been longer than that. It's actually been 3.
Yeah.
I think this is the first show in July.
Yep.
Because we didn't do one on the 4th of July. And then last week, it was a pre-recorded show.
Yep.
With a couple of pre-scheduled guests, and so it's good.
I'm ready to welcome the guests into the Champagne room.
The Champagne room. And of course, she, my sister, just slipped in on the back behind me. I see her back there. Our clairvoyant medium, my sister Shayna Latte, is up in this joint. What's up, Shayna?
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
Fantastic.
How are you?
I'm good. You doing all right? Mm-hmm. Looking colorful over there.
I'm always bright.
What you eating on, man?
Okay. Did you bring stuff for everybody? Everybody?
I went to Street Dogs, which is like my favorite spot. It's a family-owned spot down in Shaco Slip, and they always have like the best hot dogs. It was $1. RVA dog. It comes with chili and cheese.
I wish.
Everything. I'm glad we wasn't live because I was eating.
We were.
We live.
We live.
Where's the
But I'm picking.
We heard you smacking.
Yeah, we heard you
No,
smacking.
I mean the
video.
Oh, the video
wasn't up.
Yeah. I'll put that on in a few minutes.
I'm in the house.
For those folks that are looking forward to the Facebook Live, we'll pull that up in a little while so you can see all of our pretty smiling faces. Well, their pretty smiling face and my ugly one. And you know how Steppin with Marcus J live from the Den, Legacy Internet Radio, 804-402-2893 is the number to dial. Now that we have gotten all of the niceties and salutations and all of that out of the way, I think the main thing that we need to do is kind of get to the business at hand. There's been a whole lot that has been going on in our country since the last time we were here in the studio. And, I'm just laying them on the table, Broderick. I want you to kind of jump in here first. I want to get to the 2 shootings of the men. We'll get to the police stuff momentarily, but let's specifically talk about the shootings that we've got. We got the first one in, Baton Rouge, which was the Alton Sterling shooting. That one was on video, and based on my interpretation of what I've seen on the video, this is basically the guy standing outside the convenience store, and apparently the police were called, and they came out, and where the video picks up, they tackle him down to the ground. My interpretation of what I saw on that video was a man who was on his back with a knee in his neck, another knee in his chest, a knee on his arm, and his other arm pinned down. And it was at that moment where you hear the officer scream, "He's got a gun." And I couldn't tell which officer screamed it, but you can audibly hear, "He's got a gun."
Yeah.
And then you see the officer that's in the forefront pull out his weapon and fire at least one, I think it was multiple shots into Alton Sterling's chest.
Yeah.
Obviously causing his death. So now that we've got it properly, we're going to get to Philando Castro as well, but I want to kind of get them individually first, and then we'll kind of talk about them holistically. What's your initial thoughts, bro?
I mean, the first thing is exactly like you said. The man was subdued. He was on the ground. He was on his back. Even if you found that he had a weapon, because you have him subdued in that manner, you can pull the weapon, toss it far enough away, kick it far enough away to where it's no threat to their lives. So for them to have to draw their weapon and then still see fit to fire shots, and not just one shot. And these shots weren't meant to, slow him down, to just, keep him from causing them any bodily harm. When you're firing that many shots at point blank range, your intent is to kill. So that's a problem for me. So, you can't get around that.
But he was resisting arrest, Broderick. He was resisting arrest.
people resist arrest all the time, and resisting arrest does not justify drawing a weapon and firing it on a civilian.
And you obviously know that I asked you that question very, very facetiously.
Absolutely.
Mr. 3375, get in here, man. What you got? What you got on this Alton Sterling shooting here in Baton Rouge?
I know when this happened, I was still in training class, and me and one of my classmates, we was talking about it, and I know I was mentioning to him, I was like, when I was watching it, and I had got this bad feeling about it, and I was like, something bad is going to happen. And that's when the thing happened in Texas. I don't really understand really what's going on as far as them killing black people. Everybody says it's a racist thing or whatever, but I think it's a bigger picture than that. I think it's on a larger scale, and they're just using racism as a means of dividing the people in the country. I think it's something else going on a bigger scale, and we just need to really pay attention to really what's really going on, but at the same time, you know, protect our young men and our young women from the police, if that makes sense to anybody.
Well, I think it's race. I think it's hate. I think it's a combination of race, hate, anger. I mean, we can't even say anything different this time than we've said for all the other ones, because they're all senseless. They all make no sense at all. He's practically pinned to the ground. He's stuck to the ground. How he's going to pull a weapon out is beyond me, and I can't think of anything else out of that particular event, than just dislike, just a strong dislike. You've got him to the freaking ground. You've got him from the way it looked to me, like both of his arms were stuck down to the ground. What could he reach for the weapon with? A third magical flexible leg? I don't know. So it's just, to me, it's hate. It's hate.
Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Shayna, you were trying to show me something just now.
Oh, on the interstate on I-95, Black Matters Live, southbound has just shut the interstate down.
So they're having a little bit of a march or something here locally?
Oh, they out there right now.
Yeah, well.
They shutting the interstate down.
I left the house at 6 o'clock. Does that give you an idea?
So
they shut it down. They're out there.
You're dealing with it.
So,
what you think? We're definitely going to talk about Black Lives Matter and some of their methods and that sort of thing as we progress throughout the show. We'll talk more about what's going on here in Richmond. But Shayna, we're talking about Alton Sterling. It's a brother down in Baton Rouge. You and I have talked about this. I know you know what's going on. What's your thoughts?
I have a lot to say about this, but I'm really not sure how to verbalize it all into words, because it is so hurtful to see this. As a mom, as a person who has stepsons, and I have 3 brothers, you know, this can happen to anybody. And it really hurt to see that they had this man already pinned down on the ground, just to shoot him that way, in that manner. And his family have to watch this, his son, his children, his wife. And then for the media to paint a picture of him being all this horrible person to justify what these cops done is just horrible. It's horrific. The energy is bad. I can feel it. I felt it the moment that it came on the TV screen. Immediately I started crying. I was at work when I learned this information, and you know, it's so sad. On the flip note, I know a lot of police officers, and I know I have police officers in my family, and they're not all bad, but their training is horrible. They are trained to racially profile us. They're trained for it.
Well, I definitely want to address that because I 100% agree with you on that. I think a lot of times when we look at how the media portrays certain people in our country, you have to think about how you view what you're seeing. You got a lot of people in our own community that are scared of these young black boys in the hood. And so you scared of them. You see them in your neighborhood, you scared of them. So what do you think the police is going to feel when they see them? And that's the reason why you have them so trigger happy, because you don't see them treat other people in other communities the same way. And I think it has more to do with fear than it does anything else, because the police that shot that guy, Alton Sterling, he was scared. That was fear. He was scared. And
absolutely,
that's the only thing. How else can you justify shooting someone who is not posing a threat to you at that moment?
Let me ask you a question, Marcus. Are they fearing black people, or is it a fear thing? Are they automatically scared?
Well, you have to. Yes, they are, and it's indoctrinated based upon what they're seeing on television. You pay attention to the phrase "black on black crime," which is a farcical statement, because crime is something that is pervasive in everybody's neighborhood.
Sure.
White people got white on white crime, and Chinese people got Chinese on Chinese crime. You commit crimes where you are. And so when you hear the phrase black on black crime, it suggests that we are predisposed to crime. And so when you already thinking that as a citizen, just as a citizen, what do you think the people who are policing you are thinking? And keep in mind, they're people just like you are. So if you're afraid, then you know they're going to be afraid. And I think that's got a lot to do with it, especially when you got this shoot first type of mentality. Every single week last year, I was coming in the studio and I was rattling off the names of 15, 20 black men within the recent memory, 2-3 years, that had been killed by police. Every once in a while, you'll get somebody that's white that'll say, well, this happens to us as well. And it did recently. One case. But when we talking about Tamir Rice, and we talking about John Crawford, and we talking about Romali Graham, and we talking about Laquan McDonald, and we talking about Alton Sterling, and we talking about Philando Castro, and we talking about Eric Garner. And I just rattled those names off the top of my head. I'm not looking at no paper or nothing. I just rattled those off the top of my head. Per capita, this happens to us far more than it happens to anybody else. And so the only thing, this is just my opinion, and I see the faces in the room. Someone disagrees with me, grab the mic and say something. But I think one of the only reasons why you have such a quick trigger with people of color is because you're fearful of them. You have to be. What other reason? Are you really, really thinking that they're going out there shooting you dead in the street just because of your color? Is it just the color, or is there something about the color?
So why are you afraid now? If you've got me pinned to the ground, I can't move my arms. Let's be serious. I can't move my arms. My legs can't pull it out my waistband. Why are you afraid of me then? It's two of you. You both have me down. Yeah, I struggled a little bit. You didn't get me down easy. But you've got me down.
No, I got you.
What the hell are you afraid of at this point? Shit, I'm the one who should be afraid.
Because you're a black man.
Because I'm black.
You're a black man.
That is it.
Yeah,
that is it.
But it's still fear, though.
It's fear, man. It's, oh my God, it's so much freaking hate. It is hate. It has nothing to do with, I'm just scared. I'm just scared of them. Man, please.
Well,
I just can't see how you're going to keep it. It's just not me being afraid. It's just not me being afraid. It's a hell of a lot more than that. It was hate from the beginning. It's hate in the middle. It's hate now. It's going to be hate until the freaking day I die. This is hate. I'm pinned to the ground. There's nothing for you to be afraid of at this point. Nothing.
Well, obviously there is. And I can give you another example. It was a black cop here in Richmond, Virginia that killed Patterson Brown Jr. That was a black cop. So, it's more of again, and I understand where you're coming from, and I feel your passion. I just, there is a fear of the black man in this country. It's palpable. And to me, that's the only excuse. And that turn that mic off. Just turn it off. When you come back, I mean, we talked about Al Sterling. We're going to keep that on the table. An example of fear is the Philando Castro case. That's fear because he's in the car. He's carrying his weapon. They ask him for his license. And as he's reaching for his license, he gets shot. How is that anything other than fear?
Okay, maybe I got this story wrong. I thought that he said...
And I just switched cases now.
Okay, I know.
Okay.
I thought that he had a license to carry.
Yes.
And
yes.
they asked for...
The license.
The license.
Yes.
The fuck you shoot me for?
Well,
I gotta get it.
But that's fear. It's fear because even though I just told you that I'm reaching for it, I'm fearful that you're not actually reaching for it, that you're reaching for your weapon. That's fear.
But if I'm reaching for my weapon to do something to you, I'm not going to tell you that I got it. You understand what I'm saying? I mean,
ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. live from the Dan Legacy Internet Radio. We got a call on the live line. Caller, what's your name? What you want to get in on?
DJ Renee Melendez. How you guys doing?
What up, DJ?
What's up, Renee? What's going on? What you got?
I'm over here listening to y'all and listening to the very passionate conversation. Who sound like they getting so upset they ready to cry?
That's your girl.
That's SY?
Yeah.
So I called in because I wanted to explain why the cops are so trigger happy. 30 to 40 years ago, a lot of the police officers lived in the neighborhoods that they actually policed in, okay? Growing up in Jersey City, my grandparents knew just about 3/4 of the black police force. And they'd come by my house on any given day for lunch, or back then the cops used to drink on duty. They'd come have a little taste and they'd go back on their way. And if there was something going on the block and somebody had to get locked up, take them out. Never draw a gun, but just, arrest them, say, hey, listen, I got to take you in, Nowadays, okay, 40 years later, what happens is the state civil service, when they give the policeman's test, it's a pool. So your name, you apply to take the test, you take the civil service test, take the police academy test, your name goes into a pool. Now, it used to be a requirement that you lived in the community where you policed for upwards to maybe 5 years before you were allowed to move. That no longer exists. So what they're doing is they take officers who are completely unfamiliar, a fish out of water, and put them in areas of different cities and different states that they are completely unfamiliar with. They don't know the town. They have no relationship with the people, and they really have no vested interest in the community. They don't care one another what's going on. They're there to do a job and to collect a paycheck at the end of the day. Now, if you have been on social media pretty heavy over the past week, there's been an Instagram post and a Facebook post with a cop named Tommy Norman down in, I want to say Arkansas. Yep. And this guy has been buying chips and buying ice cream, and there's videos of him dancing with the kids and playing stickball with the kids and giving somebody's grandmother a ride somewhere and talking to people in McDonald's or Popeyes or something like that. But I use him as an example to say here is a man who has a connection to the community he serves. It's not about a paycheck for him. He has a vested interest in the people that he swore to protect and serve. And that's what we need more of. We don't need to be taking these guys, and I'm gonna just say it, these white guys from way over yonder somewhere, as the old folks say, and put them in our inner city communities to which they have no idea of how to relate to our people. And that is a huge part of the problem. And I will say this, in addition to it, I am a little disappointed in President Obama that he's been in office for 8 years now. And upon his last year, you have all of this turmoil going on in our country, and it seemed like every week this dude is giving a speech on how it's horrible and it's this, that, and the other, and we shouldn't be killing each other and this, that, and the third. But I don't exactly see where much has happened for him in terms of working with local law enforcement to get them to embrace the communities that they serve.
No.
Like, I don't see where that has happened at all.
No, I agree. I agree. I watched the town hall that he had last week, and I came away underwhelmed by it. And it looked like a lot of the questions that he was asked, except for when he got into it with the Texas lieutenant governor, a lot of the other questions looked like they were vetted before he had an opportunity to answer them. And I think a lot of times with a lot of our issues, we get caught up in seeing his black face and expecting him to do certain things that he's just not going to do. When you look at what the history of the presidency has been in our country, the history of the presidency in our country is that of presidents that usually act when there's a strong lobby towards, there's an agenda that comes to them, and then they act. It's only been, I would say, probably in the last year or two, maybe 2 years since Ferguson, that it's gotten to be, so hot, the block is hot, as we say back home, that, it's been put to him. But I agree with you. There's a lot more that I think needs to be done. And with him being a lame duck who's going out of office, in 6 months, I'll be honest with you, I don't know that I would have a problem seeing an angry black man right now. We've seen.
Well, but in addition to that, too, though, one of his big things that he was trying to reform was the Veterans Administration. Okay, they were talking about at least 2 or 3 years ago about how horrible the veterans were being treated and how the veterans were not given enough services, and the Veterans Administration hospitals were being poorly run, and they weren't being given the services that they needed, especially people coming home from active duty. And a lot of the guy in Dallas, ex-military, the dude in Baton Rouge, ex-military, and not to say that they might not have been a little militant maybe with their political views and everything. However, though, I do think that a lot of these guys that go in the military, they come home, they don't get the services that they need to go back into society, and they snap because they don't know how to handle it.
Right. I tease, and let me let you kind of address this next point, then I gotta let you go. I teased in social media that I was going to talk a little bit about the 2 shootings that we had of police officers and the shooters. So I'm going to kind of introduce that to the conversation now. We know that Micah Xavier Johnson, black man, was responsible for the shooting of the police down in Dallas. And he chose a Black Lives Matter rally to actually do that. And of course, initially he was connected to them. We find out that he was just a lone wolf who decided he wanted to take out some cops. And then, of course, Gavin Long was the person that shot the cops and killed them over the weekend in Baton Rouge. Another lone wolf. This one, he actually was someone who had an issue with government and was part of, a lot of times we see these, quite frankly, these crazy white dudes in the backwoods that don't like government, that don't like, any kind of governing bodies, and they're the ones that usually snap that way. But that's what Gavin Long was kind of like that. We're not used to seeing that in the black community. But anyway, the point I'm making is the connection that I saw in both of those 2 guys, aside from them being lone wolf black guys, they were both militarily trained. And I don't know if everybody made that connection, but it was something that was not lost upon me. When you have 2 guys that are militarily trained, they probably saw a whole lot of stuff in war. And they probably had some very strong feelings against our government because of the things that our government has done in other parts of the world. And so they come back and they fought for their country, and they see the police doing these things to our civilians. And we can say black people because that's what they are and that's what we are. But real talk, there's been more police killings of people in the last few years, and it's been escalating, whereas the incidences of civilians killing police has been de-escalating. Nobody's addressed that. So I want you to address it, Renee, real quick before we let you go.
I agree with you on the point about what they may have seen over in war. I also think that when they've come back, they probably weren't given the proper care and services. And, I guess their mentality might have been, well, hell, I went and I sacrificed my life for this country, and this is the way you're treating people over here. Because, honestly, it has now become black folks against the cops. I, as a black female, I'm apprehensive to get pulled over by a cop at this point. Because after the Sandra Bland thing, and, I'm just like on edge. I'm like, all right, I could be next. Any of us could be next. Hopefully that's not the case. But, you just never know. And I think that they just kind of feel like, they sacrifice themselves, and you come back here and, you don't get the services you need. It's all hell and chaos breaking loose. It's people dying at the hands of the cops for no reason, no justifiable reasons and stuff like that. And I really think that they just were both like, you know what? I don't have nothing to lose by doing what I'm doing. It wasn't right. Let me go on record by saying it's not right. However, I don't think that they felt like they had anything to lose by sacrificing themselves.
Right. No, I agree.
But what it did was what it did, though, unfortunately, was it actually took the conversation off of the police brutality and killings, and it shifted the whole conversation now to, well, black folks only want to kill cops.
Right.
And that's not the agenda that we should be focused on.
Right.
These were two isolated incidents that two people decided, okay, I'm gonna be the sacrificial lamb, and I'm gonna take out some cops.
And that's,
but it has now shifted the entire conversation
over to this, yeah,
off of the core subject.
That's the reason why I call them. That's the reason why I call them lone wolves. I got to let you go, Renee, but thank you. You always bring a very interesting perspective and great comments. So thank you for checking in. All right.
All right, later.
You got it. Peace. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. live from the Den, Legacy Internet Radio. Shout out to my brother K-Dub and the ATL for checking in, letting us know that he's listening. My brother Shaq is listening. Shaq says they're definitely putting offices in the areas that they don't know and not giving them the time to get to know them. And he seems to be agreeing with me. He said fear is a strong emotion, especially when you're adding an already heightened situation with the initial pullover. So a lot to kind of respond to. I want to get Broad back in, kind of address some of the things that we've kind of put on the table, talking about the two shooters. What's your thoughts on these shootings of police by these two men?
Well, the first thing I want to address is the idea that these two brothers, and yeah, I did make the connection that they were both military, particularly being a veteran myself. I served in the first Desert Storm. So when you see these brothers making this particular action, there's something bigger at work there. That's a whole another dynamic that's not being dealt with, because these young men are sent off to war at young ages, 19, 20, 21 years old. They are programmed, they are taught, they are trained to eliminate the enemy, and I want to say this very carefully, or a potential threat. You understand what I'm saying? So they are programmed to do that. They go off. They do lay their lives down for this country. And when they come back, nobody's deprogramming them. They are still set up in the same mindset, in the same capacity as when they were in a military zone. So now you have these young black men that are sitting here at home for the very country that they've laid their lives down for, this same government that is now abusing them or people that look like them. So now if I'm a black man that served my country, I've been trained in the art of warfare, and I come home for the very country that I serve, and it now seems like my government is attacking me. Remember, my training is to eliminate the enemy or the potential threat. So if I feel like I go outside and get in my car, get stopped by a police officer, I could be shot today, that's a potential threat. These brothers are taking action based on the way their mindset works, having been in military zones.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm not condoning that. First of all, you don't condone any of the violence in any of these situations. However, my question, and I'm going to be very blunt when I say it, I've been curious since all of this started, how long did they think they were going to be able to continue killing black men before black men started shooting back?
No.
You understand what I'm saying? And so not everybody will do that, but there are certain men with certain mindsets that are going to take a stance of, I'm not tolerating this. And when you talk about people that are from the military, that's what they're looking at. I mean, that is their mindset in dealing with that.
Right.
So it did not shock me that either of these two men were from the military. Not at all.
Ain't no half step on Marcus J. We got a special guest in the room. We want to make sure that we get her properly introduced. Our sister Mo is here. Mo, you've been sitting and listening to the entire conversation as we've been going through, and you wanted to jump in and get a comment in. What you got?
Yes. Hey, how y'all doing? I think one of my biggest concerns to touch base on us going out to killing the police, and it may come across wrong. I don't condone it, but I understand where they're coming from. But my logic is, if you're going to go and kill, don't kill innocent cops. Why are you not picking off the cops that killed our Eric Gardner? Why are you not picking off the cops that killed our Sandra Bland? Why are you not picking off the cops that killed people? Our whole purpose is to, if we're going to make some noise and we're going to do it, even though we shouldn't kill, what point are we proving in killing innocent people, military or not?
It's just like the cops.
Right.
Yeah, I totally get it. I knew it was eventually, like y'all saying, it was going to happen. I thought it was going to happen sooner than it was.
Me too.
But I didn't think it was going to happen in Texas, though. That was like the last place I thought it was going to happen. But at the same time, I don't condone killing, but I understand why it happened. And crazy it is, it needed to happen. But the killing of innocent people, like you said, it was crazy. And I agree. Why didn't they pluck? George Zimmerman should have been the first one they plucked off. I'm sorry.
I mean, I look at all the tough guys in the hood, yeah, exactly. I look at all the tough guys, in the hood that, want to beat their girlfriends and all of that kind of stuff. And not one brother walked up on George Zimmerman and took him out. And I got a question about that. One thing that I will never, ever, ever, ever do is condone murder of anybody for any reason. And so I'm not going to say that it needed to happen or anything like that. But what I will say is I'm not surprised that it happened, and I am surprised that it took so long, especially with the way that information is disseminated now. Because the truth of the matter is, I've been getting a lot of people who have been asking me for my opinion about this. I've gotten a lot of people who have asked me to, work with certain community people, white people, to try to get some sort of balance and calm amongst, black and white, because quite frankly, they in their feelings and so are we, and they want me to come to march and rally and all of that kind of stuff. First of all, let me just say this. Don't ask me to march and don't ask me to rally, because I don't want you to feel some kind of way when I tell you no. I'm not doing that, because I did that 25 years ago. I did that 20 years ago. I did that 15 years ago. And I'm only 42 years old. And my parents did that 50 years ago and 45 years ago and 40 years ago. And they're in their 70s. And so marching and rallying, while it's good for some, it just doesn't work for me. And unless you have some sort of economic component to what you're trying to do, then you're wasting your time for me. And, we know we got this thing that's going on in Richmond right now. They're blocking traffic. You want to block some traffic? You want to really, affect some change? How about you block the traffic at the airport where the Congress people are trying to get into Cleveland to go to the RNC? How about you do that? If you really want to be about it, that's how you about it, And so I'm just not one, for actually doing that. And the other thing that I wanted to say on the subject is the fact of this not being new. You know what I mean? This is not new. You got a whole generation of people who think this is new. You got a whole generation of white people who are very, very shocked that this is going on. And I got you. I can dig it. But when we was telling you this marching in D.C. 20 years ago, and you thought that we was crazy, and now you seeing that you have a few rogue jackasses that's picking cops off, don't act like you shocked now. When I told you 25 years ago, when I marched in D.C. with Al Sharpton and others, on the Justice Department because we were seeing this stuff happen back then. So, and you got a new generation of conscious young black folk. And I can dig it because you don't have no leadership to tell you to do the right thing with regards to your money. So all you know is march. That's all you know. Right. But what you don't know is in the 50s when they was marching, they also was keeping their money. That's what the bus boycott was all about. And they sacrificed. They didn't just say, you know what, I got to get that big screen TV on Black Friday, so I know most people going to do it, so I ain't got to boycott. I'm going to go ahead and get this TV. Whereas in the 50s, in the bus boycott, them cats was carpooling. Black folk was the original Uber. Right. They was carpooling, and that's how they was actually getting, it got to the point where the city was like, get these people anything they want.
You got to hit them where it hurts.
Right. And I think the difference between that area back then and this area now is the leadership. There's really no leadership in this generation. Everybody is just going out doing whatever. And there's nobody just sitting there just trying to organize everything. And if it's going to be a boycott, organize it right and make an impact like the boycott on the bus have. And I think that's where this generation is dropping the ball in that leadership that we need.
But I think the other part of that too, Marcus, I agree with you 100%. The second piece to that is that we also have power when it comes to the political side of things too. If we can get 200 people to jump out there in the middle of 95 to block traffic, why can't we get these same 200 people to show up to the voting booths?
Yep.
I mean, because the people that we put in office are the ones that are selecting the chiefs of police and the judges for the court system. They're the ones making those decisions, and that's where our voice is. But we never unify to come together to do that. But it just baffles me that you can literally find a bunch of people to run out in the middle of the street, in the middle of the highway in Richmond, but you can't get the same people to collectively show up at the voting booth and actually make a change.
Right. Right. No, I got you.
That takes a little bit more guts.
Not only does it take more, not only does it take
on the highway on 95. They out there on 95 right now.
I was at work. I told S.Y. when we were walking in the building, I quickly, and I'll put it out there, I work for the Richmond Times-Dispatch, so when news hits, it's all in our building. Right. And when I heard that, I quickly left.
Yeah. But you know what it is, though? And here's the thing that kind of upsets me. It's a lot of punks in our community, y'all. You know what I mean? It's just a lot of punks in our community. It's like it doesn't take a lot to get with 100 people to go stand in the middle of the highway. That doesn't take. I mean, yeah, there's some courage that comes with that, but it takes a lot of courage to actually go to the polls and vote. It really does, especially when you know that the person whose name you putting on the ballot can affect your life. It's one thing if you're talking about the presidency, because, there's a little tidbit for those folks who can't stand conspiracy theory, but it doesn't matter who the president is, y'all. It really doesn't. There's an agenda that's so much bigger than who the person is that it really doesn't matter. It's really about what section of the people do you want to keep happy for this 4 or 8 years. You want to keep, poor whites and blacks happy, then put a Democrat in there. If you want to make the rich folk and the dirt poor white people who think that the rich folk is for them, then you put a Republican in the office. That's how you do that. But when you really talking about voting and you really talking about, having courage and really being about it, that's when you go and you vote for the dog catcher, or you vote for the sheriff, or you vote for the mayor, or you vote for the judge in your hood, in your neighborhood. That's the courage. Because you got to see them. You got to see them. You might actually be in a local pub here in town and see them. And when you do, you can walk up to them and say, I didn't like that you did this. What you going to do about it? You're not going to be able to do that with your senator. You're not going to be able to do that with your governor. You're certainly not going to be able to do that with your president. So when we're talking about strength, I love that you said that, bro. I love that you said that, because that's the real right there. That's the courage. And we ain't got it.
But if I can, we can make that same change without having to know, the guy next door that we put there. What if all 300 of those people that are on 95 tonight picked up their phone and called their senator's office, their congressman's office, their delegate's office, their councilman's office. Because I promise you, I've worked on political campaigns, a couple of them. When you have politicians whose phones start to flood from their constituents saying, if you don't hear me, I will not vote for you in the next cycle, which just so happens to be coming around, you would do much more good with those 300 people sitting at a phone bank than they would out there in the middle of 95.
Exactly.
You understand what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So we're not taking advantage. We're always complaining that we don't have the power to be able to cause change, but we don't take advantage of the systems that we do have access to.
Yeah.
Pick up the phone. Have somebody rally to say, everybody come down here to Legacy Internet Radio, and today we're going to tell you who your congressman is. You're going to make a phone call if you're a registered voter.
But I'm gonna
and
tell
if
you,
you're not registered, we got a piece of paper for you while you're here.
But here's the problem, though. You got so many black folk, and I'm calling us out. You know what I mean? We real quick to call white folk out. They got some shit with them. And we're going to talk about white folk, too, tonight. But black folk, you really have a strong section of our community who don't think that other black folk got cold ice. They think the ice is only cold when somebody white gives it to them. And so you can sit there just now off the top of your head and you just laid out a dope-ass plan on how we can redistribute those resources to actually affect change just here in Richmond that will extend beyond this community because people will follow us. So when they see what we're doing in this town, you don't think that's going to catch on in Hampton and Norfolk and Virginia Beach and Fredericksburg and Petersburg and beyond, and Baltimore and Philadelphia and Newark and Jersey City and Raleigh and Greensboro and Charlotte, Atlanta. So I get so frustrated because we talk about this stuff and we lay it out. And many of us have actually done enough things in our own communities where you would think that folks would follow the lead. But too often it just doesn't happen. And I'm not about to stop doing what I do. But, man, it gets frustrating, especially when you see these guys dying in the street. And you know what? I'm going to hold this next comment. I tell you what. Let's do this. Let's take a break because I want to jump off the next piece of the conversation with what I was getting ready to say. What I want to talk about on the other side is I want to talk about some more solutions. And I want to talk about what it is that we can do in our community to get some of these folks to be held accountable for these police shootings, these police-involved shootings, and also want to talk about what our white brothers and sisters can do if they really about it. Because you're seeing a lot of them that are posting in social media about how they support Black Lives Matter, because the reality is there's just as many of them that's doing that as the ones that think that they're a terrorist group. Yes, there's a petition. We're going to talk about that. I got a full crew tonight, and I got y'all. Ain't No Hat Steppin with Marcus J. live from the Den. Legacy Internet Radio. Get in with us tonight. 804-402-2893. That is the number to dial. Stop the violence, y'all. I'll be back in a few.
Hey, this is Warren Ballantyne, the number one truth writer in America, and I'm listening to my man, my brother, Marcus J. right here on Legacy Internet Radio.